I watched The Devil Wears Prada 2 this past week. It felt like there were like two different films in one. It felt like two different people made that. And I think those two people never really spoke to each other. Also this week, the man who actually invented the 24-hour news cycle died. And also this week, Cannes is opening, the Cannes Film Festival, you know it. And in about, as the time of recording, 8 days, I'll be on stage at Republica 2026 in Berlin, Europe's biggest digital culture conference, whose theme this year is Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Give You Up, as in the Rickroll. This is that episode. So, Saudi Cup and welcome to the episode, of course, Funkapod Mindful Media and Communication. I'll let you know what this episode is about and then we go in order. Okay, so first off, as I just mentioned, I'm excited that I'll be on stage at Republica 2026, happening May 18th to 20th in Berlin, Germany. The theme is Never Gonna Give You Up. More than 1,000 speakers, 20 stages. It's a really cool, great event, huge. There's a Donald Trump thing, huge, but best event, most people, most speakers. But it's a big event, goes as I mentioned for 3 days. Lots of cool people there. Usually, I've been there a few times, spoke there a few times. It's like a non-academic, not just a broy conference. It's somewhere in the middle with lots of different minds. Yeah, just usually a very good idea. And this year's theme, Never Gonna Give You Up, is about not giving up on what though, right? On each other, on open digital culture, on the idea that the internet can be a force for something other than extraction. So choosing that Rickroll theme as the annual theme is actually, I think, a communications act. Because the Rickroll, you know it as a meme, of course. The OG bait and switch internet version of the bait and switch, you would expect one thing. You get Rick Astley, right? And Republic is kind of like inverting it. This time, you're getting Rick Astley, and that's the point. We know what we're doing, and we're doing it anyways. Yeah, that's kind of like the spirit there. And I'm excited to be part of it, and I'll let you know more in regards to how am I Rick rolling? Will I be Rick rolling? What am I not giving up, or what am I giving up on? So that in a second. So besides that, yeah, part of those three stories I mentioned in the beginning, um, I want to make sure that we understand that those three things that I mentioned, they're all part of a similar story arc, a similar, I don't know, topic, so to speak. Yeah, what does it mean when the media actually gives up? And what does it look like when it doesn't? I think, for example, the Devil Wears Prada, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think they gave up on coherence, on narratives, on storytelling. Ted Turner's death, right? The beginning of the model that gave up on depth. Stand behind that. And Cannes, the institution that still kind of refuses to give up. Oh, let's see. But let's go in order, okay? So, segment one of today's episode: The Devil Wears Prada 2. Wow, we're a movie review podcast now. If you think back to the original from 2006 that I just rewatched before watching the new one, it was not my favorite movie, but I can say that it was like, sharper, more unified in its narration. It had a clear narrative, and you could follow the thought process of the characters involved. I feel about the fashion media machine that was itself, I think, made with at least intentionality. They knew what they were doing. One vision, one tone, it knew what it was. Yeah. And the sequel, and I have the numbers, $234 million global on opening weekend. And for me personally, as I mentioned, one of the most incoherent movies in recent memory. The first and the second half of the movie felt like, as I mentioned, they were made by different people, different directors. The cinematography changes the register. It's like, did you change the director, change the writer? It changed everything. The tone is different. And don't even get me started on while my camera is going off, on character logic. It does not carry across at all. It's not that it's like terrible. It's just discontinuous with itself. And there's a theory. I always bring you media theories, right? There's the auteur theory, which states that a coherent film has a single authorial voice, someone with a point of view. And that point of view should be sustained across every decision. You're like, okay, the character behaves that way because of X, Y, Z. Of course, it can change, but the change needs to be reasonable, needs to be able to be followed by the audience. And when that is absent, you feel it viscerally. Even if you can't name it, you just feel like something's off. Like, why is she doing that now? Why is she smiling now? Even though she never smiled in the movie before. And what kills the auteur coherence in 2026, I think, is IP pipeline production. Studios lock release dates before scripts exist. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. Devil Wears Prada 2 gonna be out by, get it done. Directors get hired like, I know I'm gonna say like, into a machine that's already in motion. We're like, yeah, we're already working on it. You just direct it. Multiple writers, reshoots, all those things, different creative priorities, different sponsors, of course, as well, and different stages of the production process. Each pass like optimizing for something slightly different, right? We are optimizing for the sponsors being visible. We are optimizing for it to also be able to be clippable, for example. And the result is a film that gave up on itself somewhere in the middle while making it like, let's just do the best we can, but if it's not that great, people are still gonna love it because A, it has a name, it has the same actors, it's gonna be clippable, it's gonna look great on social media. And that's how it feels. It feels like a movie made for social media. And if we look into one of our favorite media theorists, Sean Baudrillard, which we mentioned here a lot on the podcast, he talks about the simulacrum. If you remember, if not, go back, check it out. And the simulacrum hyperreality basically means that the transition process between like what's real and what's not real is like a whole process in itself. And you can really point a finger on like when it becomes unreal, so to speak. Like hyperreality means we have reality just with a filter over it, basically. And so that's in very short, or a very small nutshell. If you need more, we have it on the previous podcast. And in this case, and that's also what Baudrillard says, that the simulacrum, the hyperreal product, replaces the original. So sequels, not always, and in this case, that's the same, they don't always extend the story. It consumes the original's cultural capital that the original built and produces something that references it, but without continuing it, if that makes sense. So we do reference the OG, the Devil Wears Prada, but we're not making it better. We're not adding to it. We're just using the cultural capital we created back then, soaking it in, living off of it, but not really adding much to it. And yeah, the original The Devil Wears Prada was kind of a critique in a nice comedy feel-good package, but it was a critique of a world that sacrifices integrity for speed, image, commercial pressure, all those things. The sequel was produced by sacrificing integrity for speed, image, and commercial pressure. The big opening weekend, right, the 234 million opening, is the industry answer to, was it worth making? And the audience review, whether they felt the discontinuity or whether the film held together, is like a completely different question. And the industry only tracks one of them. So a movie, a film about giving up on authenticity, made by giving up on authenticity, Yeah, the irony isn't a coincidence, I think. It's just the system, like how movies are being made, how media is being made these days. It's just that's the system describing itself. And that isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. I really do think. But let's not only talk about Devil's Prada 2, we also talk about Ted Turner and the speed machine that he invented. Because Turner died. That's hard to say. Ted Turner died May 6th. It was 87. And Ted Turner founded CNN in the 80s, right? And I think actually 1980, if I'm not mistaken. The world's first 24-hour live broadcast. Before CNN, news had a schedule. Morning paper, evening broadcast, silence in between. Sounds good, right? Silence in which you could actually think about stuff that you read, listened to, and saw. Turner removed that silence. And news became continuous, ambient, permanent, always on, always requiring your attention. And the genuine innovation, I think, happened in 1991. Why 91? Because that's when the Gulf War happened. And CNN broadcast live from Baghdad as bombs fell. You might remember that. If you studied media, you definitely saw those images because they're in every media lecture and every intro to media and so on. And the world, for the first time, watched a war in real time. It was pretty radical, to be honest. But as we know, innovation has consequences. And many a times, innovation has unintended consequences. And I think that also happened here. And the unintended consequence here is that a network that was designed to be always on has to fill time whether or not there is news. The format itself demands content faster than real-life events provided. There's another thing we can reference here. Neil Postman, also famous in the space, he talked about amusing ourselves to death. So when a medium demands constant content, the content reshapes itself to meet the medium. So that means news become entertainment at some point. Urgency, breaking news becomes the default tone. That's why it's always breaking. Right now, everything is breaking all the time. It's not because everything is urgent, but because the format requires urgency to fill the space. Otherwise, it doesn't fit the format anymore. So breaking news as a permanent, fixture right now, regardless of whether anything is breaking or not. The ticker you have on CNN and all the other news channels, right? The countdown clock. All format elements that perform urgency independent of actual events. You will have breaking news and a countdown clock for the football/soccer World Cup, which is nice, but it's not breaking. And Ted Turner later actually himself expressed regret about what cable news became. At the polarization, the shouting, the ratings chasing. He built the machine, but he didn't control what it optimized for when the economics of making money took over from the vision of always keeping people informed. So CNN post Turner, it was sold to Time Warner. I have it here, Time Warner, then AT&T, then Discovery, now absorbed into Paramount Warner Brothers. Each ownership, every time it changed owners, brought different pressures and different optimization targets. The original vision, like a straightforward global news channel, is now pretty unrecognizable, if you're honest. Because economic pressure, you have to keep the audience engaged no matter what. Also, what happened, and I just saw it while I prepared for this episode, is that CBS News Radio shutting down on May 22nd. It was founded in the 1920s, which was interesting. Edward R. Murrow was the journalist, and of course, that's what happens eventually. It's just kind of sad to see those original institutions shutting down one by one by one. We have it with newspapers, we have it with radio channels, and there's another one now. Not to say that I would listen to it all the time, of course not, but it's just sad to see that lots of sort of those kind of like media institutions are going away. But it's also feeling that like two different eras of journalism are ending in basically the same week. One that never had to fill that air, and one that's built entirely around never stopping, which is just very interesting. Ted Turner thought that like 24-hour news would make the world more informed. I'm not sure if that really worked. It definitely made the world more stimulated, but that's not the same thing. And the difference between them might be that the most important media story of the last 40 years is exactly that. How the 24-hour news cycle changed the way we feel, interpret, consume media and news. Now we're moving on to a different type of media. Let's talk about Cannes for a little bit. Because the Cannes Film Festival happening May 12th, so just started yesterday at the time of recording, until 23rd, they try to be the structural counter-argument to everything that I said so far, which is nice to have. Cannes operates on the logic that it's directly opposed to the speed machine. Films are watched in full, in silence, without interruption. The jury then deliberates after seeing all the films. No algorithm, no opening weekend, no engagement metric that determines the outcome. Good idea. So what Cannes does as a communications event, right? It constructs cultural value through ritual, through, I want to say, slowness, through maybe even exclusion. Yeah, the red carpet, the standing ovations, timed in minutes, the palm doors. Those are all communications acts that say, this is worth your attention. Now, if that's really the case, if this is really worth your attention, that's of course then for you and for the audience to decide. But it's a nice idea. I also have something critical to say about it, because we never really know who's really influencing decisions and so on, of course. But films that win at Cannes often take years to reach general audiences, as some might never do. So the Cannes model kind of says the thing inside the cinema is worth more than the speed at which it reaches you. The irony, though, Cannes itself generates enormous fast content. You can see it on IG right now. Red carpet clips, standing ovation countdowns, as I mentioned, social media moments, and so on. So the festival about slow cinema produces very fast media about itself. So the attention economy has colonized even the resistance, so to speak. The thing is, though, the thing that's still being protected inside the cinema, the actual movies, films, the actual jury, the actual palm door, still operates on its own time to some extent, at least. And that's still something that matters. Let's see for how long and how much, but I still think it's a nice counter-ish event to have. But now, before I give you more examples, let's break down the pattern, and then also I'm going to tell you what I will be talking about when it comes to Never Gonna Give You Up. So we can take it all the way back, almost 100 years ago, right? There's this guy called Walter Benjamin, and he talked about the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. In media film studies, that's what we learn early on. It suggests that when art becomes reproducible at a scale and speed, it will lose its, and yes, he used this, it will lose. Okay, I'm excited because the word I'm now going to use is like something that's every Gen Z is using in 2026. It will lose its aura. It's losing its aura. The sense of, singular presence and intentionality behind it. So if you can reproduce something at scale and speed, it will lose its aura. Back then, Benjamin, he wrote about photography replacing painting. But the same argument runs through sequels replacing originals. Continuous news replacing really, considered journalism, like detailed, in-depth journalism. Algorithmic feeds replacing editorial judgment. It's the same concept. What speed optimizes for media is volume, throughput, response time, engagement metrics. That's what matters, right? That's what speed optimizes for. What speed erodes: coherence, authorship, depth, trust, the sense that something was just made with full intention. And now I'm coming back to the Devil Wears Prada 2. It feels like two directors, one production scale. That's how it feels like. But it definitely gave up on coherence at some point. It's just, let's just get this thing done. 24/7 News gave up on depth for presence. Cannes is the annual reminder that full attention is still possible. Let's see when they will give up on it, because, I mean, they also, like I said, are consumed by the fast media on social media, for example. Republica, there we are again. The theme this year, never gonna give you up. The digital community that built much of the speed machine, asking itself whether it's ready to stop giving things up. And my session there, I call it the gamification of dissent, lessons from the digital frontlines of Southeast Asia. It's about people who genuinely cannot give up. Activists, journalists, dissidents in countries where the digital space is not a content optimization tool or optimization problem, but it's a survival question. People using every tool at their disposal, including game mechanics, to hold space for truth and organizing under partly authoritarian pressure. The contrast between the media industry giving up on craft for profit and people in Myanmar or Thailand using gamified platforms to not give up on democracy and freedom, that gap is the real story of digital culture in 2026. So, if I wrap, I would say that the Devil Wears Prada 2 gave up on itself somewhere in the second act. Ted Turner's machine gave up on depth the moment it had to fill dead air, even though he regretted it eventually. Cannes is spending 2 weeks insisting that some things are worth your full, unbroken attention. Good luck with that. Hope it works out. And Republica chose Rickroll, the internet's oldest bait and switch, as mentioned before, to say, we know what's happening. We're here anyway, and we are not giving up. That's the Rickroll inverted. You know it's coming. That's